Imagine a world without choices. Imagine you can't make your own decision. That wouldn't be a world for me. That wouldn't be a world for you. UIC.
Tell them we're gonna be stronger. Together we can make it right. Our purpose is a better Jamaica for you and I. Gonna be stronger together. Time we all just unify. Our purpose is a better Jamaica for you and I. It is a natural right for every human being to be free. Free, so free. So the government is there to protect you and me. UIC objective is to liberate the citizens from colonial bondage, them regulation, them taxation. Rob Jamaica, we independent. Be stronger together.
Hello everyone. Welcome to another edition of UIC Liberty TV. This is Joseph Patterson. And tonight we have another interesting topic to discuss. This time we're talking about our last hope. You might be wondering what that is about. In the comment section, I kind of gave you a hint as to what we're going to be talking about tonight. But it's good to see Gloria Morris on and Baba Blue together with Nika Stoney. Good to see you on. And all the rest of you out there in cyberspace all around the world. Mr. Desmond Myrie, JMH. Good to see you on. The UIC continues to work very hard to bring context and information to you to help you to make a decision and to give you the kind of confidence to share with your friends and family what we're about and how we're going to help to fix Jamaica. So thank you for all that you're doing. Good night and welcome, Carol Spence. Gangster Page, big up. Quite an interesting name though, Gangster Page. Good to see you on. Hope you enjoyed the last presentation we did. We've had a series of presentations. Winston Wright, Cardi Ramirez Acosta, and others. Hope you enjoyed those. But more than that, this is not fun and games. Hope you are actively engaged in, recruiting more and more Jamaicans to join the cause, to join the movement, to help us to achieve the grand objective of extricating Jamaica out of the hands of those who have failed us for quite some time now. So thank you for the work that you're doing in your communities. Nurse Brown, yes, for the truth. Good night to you. And Taurus King _31. Good night and welcome to you all. Tonight's program is going to be a bit sobering. Gangster Page, understand. It's going to be a bit of a sobering presentation. We're going to look on why, in my opinion, and that of others, because in fact I've heard a number of persons make reference to the UIC as our last hope, and there's quite a bit of meaning undergirding that statement. So I want to begin tonight's presentation. Welcome, Marvel Campbell, good to see you on. I want to begin tonight's presentation by first just defining for us, if you will, hope. The word hope. What does the word hope really means? And before I do that, please like the show, like the presentation if you can, and share it with everyone that you can, all your friends and families, and make a comment like you're all doing here now. Good night, hello. And when the show is finished, if you could do me a big favor and go and share your thoughts about what you heard and saw, and share any suggestions or ideas that you have. You can talk throughout the show, of course. Send me your ideas, send me questions, whatever, throughout the show. I may not get to your question, but at least you can share your thoughts. Others might pick up on it. But at the end of the show, when it's finished, if you could, just take a minute and write your reaction or response. So while you're watching, you can jot down any ideas, any thoughts you have. If you thought that we got it right, you can say so and say why. If you thought we got it wrong, you can say so as well. We always want to get your feedback on everything that we're doing. And you can also provide us guidance and suggestion. So again, welcome everyone to tonight's program entitled Our Last Hope. Hope is defined as a feeling of expectation and desire for a particular thing to happen. So somebody might say something like, he looked through her belongings in the hope of coming across some information. He used the word hope. Or the person could say, I had high hopes of making the Olympic team, or winning at boys' champs or girls' champs. Now, a second meaning for the word hope is a feeling of trust. She hoped that he wouldn't disappoint her. That's an expression of wanting to have trust in someone. A third meaning for the word hope is wanting something to happen or for it to be the case. So a person might say, I am hoping for a job offer from the company I just interviewed with. Or I hope that the kids are okay while I'm away. So that's a wanting. You want something. There is one, how do I say this now? There's one inspirational quote though that I think really captures the hope that many of us have when we talk about hope. I think there's a particular quote that I like that captures the essence of this. And it goes something like this. Hope is seeing light though surrounded by darkness. Hope is seeing light though surrounded by darkness. I particularly like this quote about hope because it speaks to the current state of our beloved country against the UIC's vision of a Jamaica that brings out the best in all its people. So here is the dismal, dark reality of the Jamaica we live in today. The crime, the violence, the corruption, the inefficiencies, the lack of customer service, the pain and difficulty of getting things done. And then here's the UIC offering us a very, very different Jamaica, a vision of a Jamaica that does the opposite of the one we have now. Today, we have a system that brings out the worst in our people. And what the UIC is offering us is a system that brings out the best in all Jamaicans. And so when I read that quote about hope, hope is seeing light though surrounded by darkness, I think about the darkness that surrounds us and the light that the UIC shines before us. All of this stems from a problem of trust. Can we trust those who have been given the responsibility, who we have allowed the responsibility? Can we trust them to do for us as government what you should expect from any government? Now, I have had the opportunity of living in Canada. I have also spent extensive time in the US, Maryland to be exact. And I've traveled to many countries, traveled to war-torn countries like Myanmar, communist countries like China and Cuba, European countries like Germany, France, England, of course, North America. I've seen different standards of living and different forms of government. But the country that is dearest to my heart is Jamaica. And for the life of me, when I look at what others have done, I'm convinced, by Marcus Garvey in particular, that what others have done well, we can do well also. But we haven't done well, or as well as we should have, especially when you compare us with countries that have had situations worse than us, and then they have turned that around. You know, you start to think, is there something we're missing? And the more I think about it, and the more I look into our situation, one thing stands out glaringly to me: that unfortunately, after 80 years under two colonial parties, we now know with certainty, without a shadow of a doubt, that we cannot and should not ever again trust them to give us the Jamaica that we want. The fact is, we would be very foolish to expect them to do now what they could have done for 80 years but did not do. Yes, we have that hope, or we had that hope, where we wanted them to do it. But they have given us no reason to expect or to trust either of them to ever do for us what we really want a government to do. Now, COVID, more than anything else, proved to us conclusively, without a shadow of a doubt, that we cannot trust a government of either of the two colonial parties with our life, with our economy, or with our children and their education. Just think about it. Reflect on what happened to us during that pandemic period. The records show clearly that these two parties could not say no to their colonial masters. They could not stand up to them. They could not protect us from their dictates. They were unable to act as a government that is responsible for responding to the wishes and desires of the people of the country over which they presided. So even though the people said, no, we don't want what you're offering, we don't want what your colonial masters are insisting on, we would rather another way. Our government and opposition consistently, persistently, aggressively pursued a path that was contrary to the wishes of the people. To this very day, they have continued to try to find any which way to get us to do what their colonial masters instructed them that they wanted us to do. So we can't trust them. And COVID was an excellent test in real time, with the greatest of clarity, that we cannot and we should not ever again trust these two parties with our life, with our economy, with our children, or their education. You saw that very clearly. If you didn't see it, something wrong with your eyesight. But that was very clear, that we should not trust them and we cannot trust them with these very, very precious elements of our existence. They've also demonstrated to us that they cannot protect us from criminals. That should be very clear to you. You should not have any doubt by now that they cannot protect us from criminals. As each year passes by, their ability to manage, to control crime, their ability to create a safe environment for us to exist in, is clearly wanting. And so they can't stand up to the colonial masters. They can't defend our rights on the international stage. They cannot be trusted to act according to our wishes. And they cannot protect us from criminals here at home. They can't protect us from the globalist criminals abroad, and they cannot protect us from the local criminals at home. Likely because they are complicit. They're a part of it. We also learned over the last 8 years that we can't trust them with our economy. They have not been able to create a real bottom-up economic growth system that results in the vast majority of our people enjoying a decent standard of living. They just can't achieve that. And they've had 80 years to do it. But they still can't do it. It doesn't mean they lack the ability to do it. We don't know. They've not proven to us that they have the ability. But if they have the ability and haven't done it, that's horrible. And they should be fired. And if they don't have the ability and can't do it, then it's also clear that they should be fired. So we cannot trust these two parties. Now you might ask yourself the question, and somebody's asking it here, can we trust the UIC to be different? You don't know. I can tell you, yes, you don't know if you can trust the UIC. There's no way for you to be absolutely certain that you can trust the UIC. But what you can be very certain of is that you have given the other two 80 years, and they have proven to you without a shadow of a doubt that you can't trust them. So if I were you, and I am you because I'm one of you, I would have to say to myself, well, those guys have proven to me over and over that we can't trust them. It's like a husband who beats his wife. She sees a new guy, she likes the new guy, and she's still married to this bad guy. And what she knows for certain is that this guy beats her every week. Goes out, get drunk, come home, and he beats her. If he beat her for 1 year straight, that's very clear. It's a serious problem there. And if he beats her for 3 years straight, I mean, she shouldn't have any doubt about what's going to happen in the 4th year. But if she sticks around with him for 5 years, she should have absolutely no doubt. Now, the new guy, she has no idea. What does she do? She courts him, talk to him, try to see his background, figure it out as best as she can, and then she has to take a chance because there's absolutely no surety. But she does her homework. Now for the UIC, what's your homework? First of all, you assess where's the UIC coming from? Who's the founder? What's his background? What kind of stuff has he been engaged in? And that's some input. What has he done so far? What's the message of the UIC? What kind of policies do they have? Have they done things that demonstrate that they're trustworthy? Did they stand up for us when others didn't? When the government and the opposition pursued a path of saying, we're going to ram down the Jamaican people's throat, what our foreign master said, what did they do? Did they join them or did they defend us? And so with that, you can decide. Can we trust the UIC or not? You can't be 100% sure that you can. But you should be very, very sure that you can't trust the others. So we can't trust them to stand up to our colonial masters. We can't trust them to protect us from criminals. We can't trust them to build a bottom-up economic growth model. We can't trust them to protect us from even artificially induced inflation. Yes. We can't trust them to defend our dollar and stabilize and maintain a strong exchange rate, prevent foreign currency manipulation and monetary devaluation. We can't trust them to do any of that. So why on earth are we trusting them to be our government? They can't stand up to foreigners. They can't stand up to criminals. They can't build a good economy. They can't protect us from imported inflation. They cannot manage the exchange rate. They can't stop monetary devaluation. So why on earth do we have them as government? Yes, they make very pretty speeches. They make great promises, wonderful and grand announcements of new initiatives. But when you do the analysis, you will always find that in the end, they let us down. They sell us out and they leave us holding the bag all the time. How many times now have you heard them telling you to ban your belly, to suck salt through a wooden spoon, to hold strain, to just work with the government? Better days are ahead. We're about to take off. Do you remember all of those statements? Now, some of you are too young to know them. If you're in your 20s, you have no idea. You have to go back and watch the history tapes you can find, out there on YouTube, because we haven't done a good job of documenting our real history. So in school, our students don't learn the real history of Jamaica. They don't know that Bustamante said of the Rastafarian, go out there and round them up and bring them in dead or alive. They don't know about that. They don't know that Bustamante, who is there as one of their 7 national heroes, that he oversaw, encouraged, facilitated the massacre of our Rastafarian brethren and sisters. Discrimination, apartheid, all of that he enforced against Jamaicans just because they decide to have a religion different from others. They didn't accept the European religion. They decided to practice their own, built their own religion, decide not to cut their beards or to run comb through their hair. Their choice to do. And Bustamante said he would not have it. And the PSOJ elites said, we don't want those people walking on our streets. We want to build a nice, clean tourist environment absent of the Rastafarian. And today they big up Bob Marley and pretend that, they've always endorsed Rastafarians. Rastafari. No. So we cannot trust these people. Bustamante should never be a national hero on that one pretext alone, and there are many others. Nor should Norman Manley, if you go and look at the history, the real history behind Norman Manley, the PNP, and what it did to Marcus Garvey, the one true patriot who gave us the first political party, who would have given us the Jamaica that the UIC is talking about now. Marcus Garvey and his party would have given us that from then. But here we are, 80 years later, and I have to be asking you if you can trust these people. I know you can't trust them, and that's why I never joined either of them and never will. Even if you guys reject me and reject the UIC, you will never see me joining the PNP or the GLP, never. Because I'm too smart for that. I am too bright for that. I'm too ethical for that. I'm too moral for that. I'm too sane to do that. So I, Joseph L. Patterson, would never, ever, under God's creation, be found dead as a member of the PNP or the GLP. Never, ever. So don't ever hope for it. I know there's some out there begging me to join up with the PNP to get rid of Andrew. You're asking me to get into bed with a cobra to get rid of a python. Are you sick in your head? Are you crazy? Do you think by getting rid of Andrew and putting Mark and the PNP in, you're going to get anything better? The only thing better is that those who are closest to the PNP will get some of the crumbs that fall from their master's table. But Jamaica will be destroyed just the same. So I will not join with any of the two for any reason whatsoever. My mission and your mission must be to liberate Jamaica completely from colonialism in all its form and from those who have advocated and pushed that system for the last 80 years while pretending to care about the people and the country that we call Jamaica. Not going to happen. So don't let the pretty speeches fool you. Don't let the new faces on their parties fool you. Don't make the grand promises and announcements fool you. Because if they never did it over the 80 years, they're not going to do it again. They wrecked Air Jamaica. They wrecked JOS, the Jamaica Omnibus Service, a far better bus public transportation system than we have now. They wrecked the train system. They wrecked agriculture, including now marijuana. They've given us a false, fake, destructive education system. They have destroyed our tourism product by making it an all-inclusive product owned by foreigners mostly, that denies our farmers access to the tourism market. They have even destroyed our culture, taken a peaceful, God-fearing, loving, socially harmonious people and divided us, distracted us, and demoralized us, that now we even hate ourselves more than ever. We're antisocial, brutish and brutal, wicked and selfish, bad mind and hateful. That's what they've done. Taken our beautiful culture, the remnants of what was left from our African ancestries, and they've wiped it out. Wiped it out of us. We cannot, we dare not, we should not trust these people with even our dogs. As soon as they touch anything, anything at all, as soon as they touch anything, corruption sets in, corruption takes over, and whatever it is goes from good to bad, and then from bad to worse, until it becomes either extinct or falls in the hands of foreign interests. They are nothing but mash-uppers. They mash up everything that them touch. Every single thing that these two parties touch in this country, they mash it up. If I'm not telling the truth, please indicate so by typing in your comment section now, not true. But if I'm telling the truth, type truth. True. Say true. If I'm telling the truth. Let me know if I'm missing something here. If I am seeing a different side of these two colonial parties than you. If you see something different, let me know. But all I see is two parties who are nothing but mash-uppers. Whatever them touch, mash up. Look what they've done with our taxi system, our bus system, our airline, our train system, our agriculture, banana, coffee, you name it, cane, them just mash it up. They mash up everything. Look at our school. We used to produce some good students who can write properly, who can read properly. We used to produce scholars. They mash it up. Mash it up. 70% of our students fail every year. Over 70%. And you want to tell me that I must go join the PNP? I must go work with the PNP? The PNP that had 18 and a half years to set this country straight? I must go join the PNP? You're mad? You're sick in your brain. I must go and join those who oversaw the destruction of our banking system, the destruction of our economy, the destruction of more than 44,000 jobs and small businesses. I must go join them. Are you sick in the brain? I will never join the PNP. My mother gave her life and heart to the PNP. Every ounce of energy she had, she fought for Michael Manley. Everything she could to realize the dream, the vision of that man. And look what the PNP did to our country. And I must go and join the PNP. Are you crazy? Look what Siaga and the GLP did to our people. 800 murdered in 1980 alone. And that's just those they found. Many in shallow graves. These parties gave guns to our young boys and turned them into criminal instead of giving them a book, a computer, knowledge and understanding beyond the colonial way of thinking. That's what they should have given our boys. Instead, they turned them into vagabonds and left our women as single mothers or with destructive fathers. And I must join the GLP or the PNP? Never. I will not be a fool. I'd be a damn idiot to go and join the two of them. I would be somebody unworthy of a quarter of your vote, a piece of your vote, if I were to do that. So don't tell me to join them. It's better you tell me to just sit down and do nothing, like many of you. Just sit and do nothing and decide that I'm just going to sit down and let it go on. But don't tell me to join them. It's an insult to my intelligence. Anybody else who joined one of those two parties either lacks intelligence or committed to corruption. One or the other. You cannot be an intelligent, informed Jamaican and decide to align yourself with the PNP or the GLP. That must be a very ignorant person with absolutely no knowledge of their history, or somebody who wants a piece of the legacy of corruption that they've left our country. I want you to think about this for a moment. We have multiple universities and engineering graduates in this country. Yeah. Every year, Jamaicans are graduating with degrees in engineering, in business administration, construction engineering, civil engineering, you name it. But even though we have multiple universities and graduates after graduates from these universities every year, we cannot design, build, and maintain our own roads. Good roads. Yes, we have some people doing some work, but nothing good. But even though we spend billions of dollars on primary school, high school, college, university, post-secondary programs in various forms, even though we spend all that money, we cannot design good roads. We can't build good roads, and we can't maintain good roads. No, man. You must be sick in your head to decide that we should go and support these parties. We can't build good roads. We can't design good roads. We can't maintain good roads. We have to go to foreigners, give them thousands of acres of our lands, take out billions of dollars in loans, allow them to import thousands of their people into our country to come and do work because we too dunce to do it. We now have the civil engineers to design our roads. Why we have universities? Close the universities, shut down all the schools, and just call China and say take over. Why on earth do we have universities, colleges? Every year people about them are graduate. And our universities are giving papers to say you are certified as somebody who has completed an engineering program. And we can't design our own roads. Our roads. We can't design our own roads. We can't build our own roads. We can't maintain our own roads. If we do it, it mash up in a few months. As the rain fall, it wash out. Right now on my road here, come to Bogue, St. Elizabeth, and come and look at my road right now. As the rain begin to fall again, it just a wash way. Yeah? Little by little, just a wash way. They built roads without proper design for proper water runoff. They build roads without the appropriate material quantity being followed. And they maintain roads in a way that ensures that shortly after a rainfall, the maintenance is worthless. My friends, for me, this is not politics. This is about us being pragmatic and realistic. We cannot continue to suffer under the leadership of these two parties. We have to stand up and do something. Instead of using our graduates, instead of investing in our human capital, instead of encouraging and facilitating real engineering and ingenuity, they chose to do the easy thing of just borrow money, thief some, and then sell us out to the highest bidder and make us pay a toll on top of taxes we already paid to drive in our own country, a small country, a little country like Jamaica. We have to pay a toll. Yes, me understand the big interstate highways between 50 states. Yeah, toll, fine, if that works for you. But your local roads, Jamaica is a little local country. We could have highways. We could have well-maintained roads without paying double taxation. My heart bleeds for our citizens in Portmore, St. Catherine. They have to pay a toll every day if they want a quick ride from where they live to town where they have to work. Every day they have to do that or drive the long way around and meet traffic that's coming out of Spanish Town and the rest of Jamaica. Anybody who want to leave Portmore, there's two outcomes. You either go pay a toll or you go and meet the traffic coming from Spanish Town and St. Elizabeth and Clarendon and everybody else. Which government does that to their people? And which people allows their government to do that to them? They have designed a country where if you wish to drive on decent roads, you must prepare to pay double taxation. You pay taxes already, and then you must pay a toll on top of that tax, which is another tax, in order to drive on your road. And the money from that road, the toll from that road, goes into the pockets of foreign interests who not only own your road, but own thousands of acres around those roads and will build commercial entities around those toll roads and lock out the rest of the market of your own people in your country. Your own people. You have built a road to lock them out of the economy and given the land around those roads to foreign interests to further commercialize your country for their benefit. What kind of government can be so stupid to do that to their people? What kind of government can do that to their people? Only a government that does not care to a people that does not understand. Yeah. And it is working. Every day I see somebody jumping up and cheering for one of the two parties. I said, oh, there goes a very ignorant soul. They have no idea. They're cheering for their own demise. A government that cannot manage our land, that it gave it away to bauxite companies to mine it out and leave us with pollution and economic devastation. That's what the government has done. They don't have the foresight to plan and manage the land of Jamaica in such a way that we would have food security, water security, and energy security. Instead, all we have is economic insecurity and health pollution. And they tell us we're making money from bauxite. No, we're digging our grave with bauxite. We're allowing them to dig our graves. Every ounce of bauxite they extract is a grave that they're digging for the Jamaican people. Because when they finish, dig out all of our land and leave us with all these devastating mud lake and polluted air and polluted water, we're dead. So my friends, it's time to wake up. Please, snap out of it. It's time to wake up. I know the UIC is no physical match for the other two parties yet, but that's up to you. I'm doing my part. But it's up to you now whether or not you want to continue to sit down in this. Look at it. The longer they run our schools, the more they run it into the ground, leaving our teachers to run away from both the students and the country. The students are getting vile, uncontrollable. Why? Why? Because the government has failed to create a country and the people that are of a certain caliber. Don't blame the parents, just so. The parents you see today are the product of the government and their school system yesterday. And the parents you're going to see tomorrow are the product of the students being produced today. And who, pray tell, is producing those students today? Who is producing the parents of tomorrow? Who is producing the parents of tomorrow? This government. Who has locked our children out of school for 2 years? This government. Who has allowed foreign policies of foreign countries to determine their response to a health challenge? This government. And they, in their ill-advised policies, took a bad education system with horrible outcomes and made it even worse by very bad policies. So you're not seeing nothing yet. All the violence that you're seeing, all the crime that you're seeing is about to multiply when the effects of the last 2 years fully kicks in over the next 2 to 3 years as they leave school. So when you look at Jamaica today, I want you to understand that you're looking at the product of 80 years of the JLP and the PNP. This product that you see, if you like it, praise the PNP and JLP for it. And if you don't like it, assign your blame squarely to where it belongs. And it's to those two parties. Tonight, I'm not mincing any words because I want you to be very clear. I don't want anybody again telling me about I must go join the PNP or work with Mark Goldie. I shall not and I will not. So don't come and ask me again or tell me again to do that. It's not going to happen. I want to work with you, not Mark Golden. I want to work with you, the Jamaican who has now become aware, fully informed that we cannot continue on this trajectory. I want to work with you. I want you to join hands with me. You see the symbol? I want you to join hands with me and every member of the UIC by becoming a member yourself. And let us go about the diligent business of rescuing our country from those who are destroying it. And while we're on the topic, I want to ask you, I want to ask you to name for me, if you can, anybody out there. I want to see your response to this. Get ready to type. Name for me one thing that either of these two parties have run properly. Tell me one thing that government is supposed to do that either of these parties, when in government, have been able to run properly. Tell me one. I'd love to hear something you think they're running properly, that they're doing a good job in running this particular thing in the country. Tell me one of them, that they're running well. We're not talking about something that just exists and subsists. Tell me one of the government's responsibility that they are running very well. They have done an excellent job of running it. I want to hear from you. Oh, Joan Williams said crime. Okay, Nurse Brown says their mouth. All right, I thought we couldn't find anything, but you're doing a good job actually. But I did say something they should be doing, so to be honest with you, you're wrong. But I understand the joke. But they have not run a single thing that government is supposed to run. Not one thing. Now, when you're on a job, there's something called employment review or performance review. Yeah, performance review. You're supposed to have a performance review. Now, if you hire somebody, and you should be so fortunate as to be able to hire them for 80 years straight, and they fail year after year after year after year after year after year after year. If you hire somebody and they fail you not one time, not two times, but 80 years in a row, should you continue to hire that person? Honestly, should you continue to hire that person? I can't think of anything that these two parties have done well, that government should do, that they've done well. They've done a great job of maintaining themselves in government, keeping themselves there. But they have not done the things that we're supposed to see them do as a people. None at all. Every public agency, every single one of their public agency is inefficient, ineffective, and provides bad customer service. The mashup JPS, Water Commission, poor service. You go to any government office, long lines, long wait, your whole day mash up when you go to deal with them. They can't manage a driver's license program, peer corruption. They can't manage a vehicle fitness program, peer corruption. They can't manage a gun licensing program, peer corruption. It takes you like 2 years to get a firearm if you apply for it. Nothing at all that they should be doing as government, they do it well. They're only good at producing criminals. They're only good at spreading corruption. They're only good at selling off our assets to foreigners. They're only good at stealing our money for themselves and their loyal followers. They're just not good at government. So the one thing we hire them to do, they're not good at it. They're good at the things that we don't want them to be good at. They're good at producing criminals, spreading corruption, selling off our assets to foreigners, enriching themselves and enriching their followers. They're so good at this that when Jamaica is suffering and in pain and in devastation, their friends are making billions. When Jamaica's economy keeps going down, their assets keep going up. As a matter of fact, right now, the Prime Minister has not been able, the Prime Minister has not, okay, let me rephrase that. The Integrity Commission has not been able to sign off on and publish the Prime Minister's income and asset declarations for 2021. Did I get that right? This stuff is due 3 months after the year end, after the calendar year end. And the Prime Minister's declaration can't be forthcoming yet. The Prime Minister of our country, the one who should be the model citizen, the person we can all look up to and say, yeah, man, I'm dep on the thing, is doing stuff right. The Prime Minister who goes offshore and set up an offshore account to avoid paying the taxes we, by his own rules, are supposed to pay. The Prime Minister who his assets were called into question about his big house and the value of his wealth based on his age and his income. Yeah. And the Prime Minister who has several times now been found to be trying to skirt the very constitution he took a vow to uphold. I don't get it. I do not get it. The Prime Minister who was recently investigated and found to be wanting by the Integrity Commission, only to have the Director of Corruption Prosecution saying, oh, we took too long, we're not going to bother to prosecute, we're not going to take it to court, it's too long, too many years have passed. That's all the way from 2016. And they said that the Prime Minister was exonerated. That's not an exoneration. That's corruption. So, I want to switch gears now and look at something very, very interesting, why I shared what I did before with you. I'm sure you've all heard about the New World Order. This is something that's been going on for some time now, the New World Order. You've heard it before under George Bush Sr., George Bush Jr., and even before that. You heard about conspiracy theories and all kinds of ideas about what some people in the shadows or want to do to the world and to us. If you're a Christian and you pay attention to prophecy, you're aware of all kinds of talk about, the mark of the beast and powers trying to deny you the right to buy and sell unless you take a mark and all kind of stuff. Fanciful fairy tales, various theories, conspiracies, and so on. But let me be very real with you. The conspiracy theory is becoming a conspiracy fact. The world is heading in a direction that threatens our very existence, our freedom as a people. We need now more than ever a government that is of the people, by the people, and for the people if we're to have anyone stand up for the people of Jamaica. We can no longer afford to tolerate and permit these two colonial parties to sit in the seat of our government to represent us on the world stage at this time. We have seen clearly that they will throw us away, sell us out, hook, line, and sinker. So we cannot afford at this time, when the world now sees clearly that many of these things were not conspiracy theories, but conspiracy fact. We just cannot afford to trust these two parties with the sacred responsibility of protecting our lives and our livelihoods. After seeing the 80-year-old track record of these two parties, it is very clear that we cannot afford at this time in the history of humanity to leave such a sacred role in the hands of those who have failed us time and time again. It's like you going out on the Titanic, knowing beforehand that it's going to crash. But for whatever reason, you could not escape going out to the Titanic. And you choose to carry a leaky boat out there as your safety equipment. That's what we're doing with these two governments, these two parties. We are going out to sea, rough seas, dangerous seas, with a leaky lifeboat, a leaky life jacket, and little or no hope of being protected by them. That's what we're faced with. And so, if they could not see that the colonial powers actually manufacture a crisis in order to get us to accept their solutions, and if they could not see that the solutions proffered by the colonial powers were solutions to trap us, to push us right back into slavery, or more fully into a new form of slavery, if they could not have seen those things as late as 2020 and 2021, to the point where now they're pushing the central bank digital currency almost with the same fervor that they were pushing the pandemic solutions. If they could not see and understand what the colonial powers were doing and just bought into it like that and accept their solutions and force their solutions on our people, not realizing the traps, can we possibly trust them with anything else that is to come? I say not. If after 80 years at the wheel, they cannot see and effectively respond to these geopolitical tricks, why should we trust them with our lives, with our livelihoods, and our government? Marcus Garvey said it well, actually. He said, any leadership that would lead you to depend upon another race is a leadership that will enslave you. Any leadership that would lead you to depend upon another race is a leadership that would enslave you. Do you agree? Let me know, because maybe you don't agree with Marcus Garvey. I agree with him 100%. But let me know if you agree. Marcus Garvey said, any leadership that would lead you to depend upon another race is a leadership that would enslave you. Do you agree? Let me know if you agree. Say yes in the comment box if you agree, and no if you don't. I asked that question because, in my estimation, from my observation, the vision, the mission, and the values of the JLP and PNP is to keep us colonized, keep us dependent, and keep us poor, while they live the life of a well-fed, well-clothed, and well-housed house slave. They're contented to be the house slave of the colonial masters. They're contented to be the house slave of the PSOJ oligarchy backroom masters. So they're quite contented with us remaining colonized, dependent, and poor. That's their vision. That's their mission. That's the guiding values which lead them to lead us to where they have led us and will continue to lead us. My friends, it's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to rise up. It's time for us to escape the plantation. But maybe you're okay with the way things are. So I should ask you the question. I asked myself this question a long time ago, and it has led me to where I am today, why I am doing the things I'm doing now. Having observed all the stuff I've seen in my lifetime, and I'm a student of history, so I've done a lot of reading on history. And the way I study history is a bit different from the academic approach that they tell us in school. I don't study history to know dates and times and names, and to be able to proudly recite to you when this war was fought and what was the name of this general and so on and so forth. I study history to understand life, to understand why we're here, how we got here, to understand relationships, interconnectivities, who did what, when, and where that caused what were their motives, how did that impact their lives and those who came after them down to the point where I am, where we are. When I study world history and I look at, the European countries fighting each other, the World War, that wasn't really a world war, it was a war of Europeans fighting each other, and then they dragged the rest of us into it. When I study those wars, I look at the impact of them on the Jamaican economy at the time they were fought. What was Jamaica like during World War I? What was happening during World War II? How does that interact with the colonial plantation lifestyle at the different points? What caused the 1838 abolition of slavery? Why did it take 106 years from then until getting the right to vote? What were the interacting pieces of history that delayed something so important as voting rights to come? Why did it take 18 years from then to independence? What was happening in between? Why did the British even decide to give us so-called independence? What was happening between them and India at the time that precipitated that? What role was the Chinese playing at that time? How was their countries organized and set up? How were the economic trading blocks shifting at the time? Who were the major powers? Why did America become the nation with the reserve currency of the world? How did the British pound lose its value to the point where they no longer were the reserve currency? What were the interplays there? How did the War of the Americas affect that? How did the Spanish War affect that? How did the French War affect that? So I wanted to understand all the interplays. So today, I'm in a better position to understand the geopolitics and not just be driven by emotion and the surface information that the news give us. We have to move beyond superficiality and surface thinking and surface reading. Get down to the business of understanding the tricks, the deception, the lies, the manipulation. Otherwise, they won't trick us for just 80 years. It will be another 400 years or more in slavery. So I want to ask you, do you want to remain a slave? Don't answer it. It's a rhetorical question, but one for you to think about. Do you want to remain a slave? Now, if you think you're free right now, then you're in the best position to remain a slave. I know I'm not free. For example, I bought land here in Jamaica, but I have to pay property tax for the rest of my life to keep that land, as long as these two parties remain in power. If I want to stop pay rent for my land, I have to kick them out of power and bring laws in that says when you buy land, you own it. And I have to bring in laws that says the land actually belongs to the people, so I can return that land to the Jamaican people individually, so every Jamaican becomes a property owner. If I want that to happen, I have to know that I can't rely on these two parties because they have a vested interest to keep us in slavery. And I want to change that. For you, for me, for my family, for our children. So I am prepared to raise war via the ballot box to take control of our country and free our people. And give us one basic thing to begin with, and that is to get our land back. The land that was stolen from our ancestors, which now we're being forced to work hard and buy back. So, do you want to remain a slave? I don't. A slave, by the way, is someone who is owned and controlled by one other than him or herself for the benefit of others. Think about that carefully. A slave is someone who is owned and controlled by somebody other than himself for the benefit of somebody other than himself. So somebody is owning and controlling you to benefit somebody other than you. That's slavery. So slavery comes in many forms, not just with physical chains and whips. That's the easy slavery that comes to mind, the one that is very obvious, the one that you can see clearly and know that is slavery. But I want you to step back and think about slavery the way it really is, what it really means. Then you're going to realize that you may have misunderstood slavery. And you might start to look around you and see slavery all around you. And if the World Economic Forum gets its way, what I'm about to describe to you will become very, very clear, but only when it's too late. I want you to become aware today, not when it's too late. So remember, slavery is when somebody else controls you and gets the benefit from controlling you. So slavery comes in many forms. It may come as a wolf in sheep's clothing, using words like these: pandemic. For example, a pandemic was used to practically own and control us so that a few companies became super rich or richer because they were able to own and control us for a period of time fully in some way. And the politicians who helped them to do that, many of them also became very wealthy and rich. Of course, some have to be hiding the wealth somewhere for it to come out later, or they have to create many schemes to funnel these monies into shell companies or other arrangements and gradually get that seeping back into their lives and making them super wealthy and their assets going up while your life went down. They crashed your small business, destroyed your health, destroyed your children's education, messed up your future, blighted your life, but they're wealthier. So slavery may come in the form of a word called pandemic. It may come in the form of a phrase called climate change, where they make up a story, point to all kind of misleading information, get you scared, then get you to vote for or support changes that allows them again to own and control you and extract your wealth from you. It may come in the form of a CBDC, or central bank digital currency, that further centralizes money in the hands of a small elite group with extraordinary godlike powers because of the great opportunity that technology offers. But they harness that technology, pull that power to themselves, force you into a new monetary system that gives them far more control than they already have, and far more ability to steal more from you than they already have, and to have you slaving for years, not knowing why, no matter how hard or fast you run, you can't seem to get ahead. So they call that one the central bank digital currency. They may use all kinds of schemes to get you into it. They might tell you that, look, they're shooting up the beryllium buses or vans. It's unsafe to use ATM, so we're going to take it out. NIDS, we need to get you into that for it to work. And by the way, here are some free offerings. So slavery sometimes takes the word free, like free education, so we can brainwash you, free healthcare, so we can get you used to the idea that it's really government that's responsible for your health. And when you don't comply, then we can sanction you, because at the end of the day, you're a cost to our healthcare system. They can use words like collectivism, nice sounding words, say, listen, we're all in this together. Really? When a few who are at the top and have the strings and the levers, they're not in it with you. You're just in it by yourself, and they're the ones manipulating you. But collectivism, or they might call it democracy, where they've engineered a partisan structure to keep you distracted and divided while they extract your wealth. Or they might call it socialism. And if it's a good term at a particular time, then it's good. They might call it communism, if that works at the time. Or whatever they think will distract you from the reality that they're really just wanting to make you a slave, with or without your permission. So I'm going to say some things now which might shock you. It might really cause you to say, whoa, what is this? But never mind. I want you to just relax your mind for a little bit. Be as open as you possibly can in your thinking, and allow yourself to absorb, think about, and understand before you jump to any conclusions. Yeah? So think about this carefully. I'm going to share with you now some uncomfortable truths, things that will challenge your thought process. We're talking about slavery, and this is leading somewhere. And I want you to get out of your mind the idea that slavery is just the whip and the chains. For example, communism is a form of slavery. See the red bells going off? Communism is a form of slavery. It's a form of slavery where you own nothing, and the state or the government owns you and everything else. And remember, you are ultimately the means of production. There's no production without human beings. So when they talk about the community owning everything, and the means of production, and then they're gonna do everything together and then share everything to everybody equally. Come on, you know better than that. You have seen history. What communism means is that the government owns everything, including you, and you are the ultimate means of production. So communism is a form of slavery. You can challenge me on that if you wish. But here's the kicker. So is socialism. Socialism is a form of slavery, where you're led to believe that you own property. But it's actually the state or the government who owns both you and your property by way of two things: unbridled taxation and nice sounding evil regulations. So they say, you own things, man, you can own things. And then through the back door of being able to tax away your wealth, whichever way they want to do it, they can call it all kinds of names: sales tax, excise tax, property tax, income tax, NIS tax, NHT tax, custom duties, whatever it is, gas tax. They'll find every which way to tax you. I call it unbridled taxation. No rhyme or reason, no limits. They can keep inching away at it. Like when they brought in the GCT, the general consumption tax, it was around 7%, I believe. Then it went to 10%. Then it went to 11, 12%. Then it went to 16.5%. And then they also have nice regulations where they say, we're putting this regulation in place to protect you. We want to protect you with this regulation. You'll beware when they come to you with their regulations and they want to protect you. So they might have regulation that says you can't, we don't want you to farm in your backyard because it might have climate change impact on us. So don't farm in your backyard. Don't light a fire in your backyard. Don't burn the garbage. Even if we're not coming to pick it up, don't burn anything. Because we know that, don't cut down any tree, by the way. Don't catch any rainwater off your roof. We're trying to protect you. Do as we say. Now, there are good regulations and there are bad regulations. And many times, the regulations you get are bad. They're designed to protect big business, to stifle small business, to protect big business from competition, to create monopolies that serve the interest of the companies that have been donating to the political parties, and so on. Okay? So be careful of the regulations. Regulations are good and bad. So don't believe that just the word regulations is okay. You need to know what is the real purpose of this regulation, not the one that is stated, not the one where it's being sold to us. What is the underlying reason for the regulation? How will that regulation actually impact our lives? And most of the regulations, almost 90% of the regulations, I can assure you, are designed to tie our hands, to prevent us from competing with big, powerful businesses. It's to make sure that by the time you finish, your head will hurt you. You don't know whether to turn left or right. You must just give up and go back a job. Nobody to try nothing. Don't try to start a business. It's going to be too complicated. That's the idea. We don't want you starting a business. We don't want you developing anything. What we want, so what they want to happen to you, they want you to become mindless and just go to work. And when it's ready, they will reduce the shift or increase the shift, whatever it is. But you must just become a mindless worker with no ambition. Unless having ambition is in the line that they have designed it for you to go into that line and have the ambition they want you to have to climb that corporate ladder, not understanding that they're just milking you, and at the end of it, they're going to drop off the belt, and you'll be useless and hopeless. And you'll spend the rest of your days paying, medical bills when you think you should be retiring and enjoying life. Okay? So, contrary to the belief of many, communism, socialism are all forms of slavery. Now, here's the kicker. This one you'll agree with more easily because the word has been made very bad for you, so you kind of know that. But you don't see the connections. Here's this one. Fascism. What is fascism? Well, fascism is also a form of slavery. Fascism modifies communism and socialism with so-called private-public partnership or public-private partnership, where government and big business gets together, they collude and figure out how to own and control you via the same thing, unbridled taxation and regulations to enrich the elites. This includes the big banks, the big tech companies, the big pharma companies, and they all come together. That's fascism. Government and big business working together to control you and to own you. So they might decide to use big tech to control the narrative that you are getting. They might decide to use the big banks to control your access to cash. They might use big pharma to control your bodily autonomy, your body, to control your body, to control what happens from birth to death. How they're going to make you an economic unit. And that's what a slave is, right? An economic unit to benefit somebody else. So what happens at childhood? What will we give these children to drink instead of their mother's milk, instead of enriched milk from their mothers, instead of that, the mothers learning about health and how to live properly, how to eat properly, and then feed their babies this proper milk to make proper blood, to have well-developed brains, to be able to think clearly, to be able to analyze, to be able to not be tricked by them? How will we shift that around and move these babies to drinking formula of some sort? How will we make sure that those children are taken as quickly as possible from their mothers? How do we break up the family so that even if you have husband and wife in the home, they have no time with these children? And we will feed them, not just the formula, but the education that we want them to have, to get them to think the way we want them to think. How will we control that schooling throughout? So they don't understand money, they don't understand economics, they think math is too hard, they think economics is too hard and complicated, and they go for the simplest thing, and they become dumbed down, and they want to watch basketball and football or whatever all day, or drink beer and laugh, or do all kind of stuff, instead of being highly informed, highly intelligent, highly educated human beings. How can we get them to do that? That's government and big tech, big business, working together in public-private partnership to make your life better. That's fascism. That's what Hitler used in Germany. And you know how that went. But believe it or not, that's really what you're entering right now, fascism. It has other names like, a technocracy or other fanciful names. But the bottom line is, it's another version of slavery. Now, if you're still with me after all of that, and you haven't jumped off the live yet, then it means I can then share with you the next thing I'm about to say. I see somebody asking a very interesting question here. I know the only group I'm a part of is the UIC, really. I'm not a part of any other group. I'm here to make sure that you understand what's happening and you can make a decision for yourself what you want to do. So now that I've explained to you some possible bombshell brain reconfigurating information, and my good friend Naika is waiting in the background. She want to talk to you a little bit about some CBDC stuff. So I've kind of jumped ahead of her. Sorry, Naika. I'll let you in a bit. She's saying it's okay. All right, but now I'm going to share with you something which is also going to, again, tickle your mind. Cause you to really get that brain, the juices flowing a little bit. Well, I've lost a few people. I lost about 10 people a while ago. So I was wondering, because I thought more would have dropped off after that, because, it's really challenging thinking here. Simple, clear, straightforward, but you have to have a certain amount of intellect to sit down and listen and appreciate what I'm talking about. And not everybody can do that. So I'm not surprised. But hats off to you who are still here. The vast majority of you are still here. Here's the next kicker. This is another piece of new information for some of you, thought-provoking, that I hope you'll understand. So after just telling you that communism, socialism are other forms of slavery, and that what you're going into right now is a form of fascism, which is big government and big business coming together to control you, to own you. Capitalism, on the other hand, was supposed to be the opposite of communism, the opposite of socialism, and the opposite of fascism. But you were taught that capitalism is horrible. In fact, you were taught that capitalism is related to slavery, that it's because of capitalism why you had slavery and all that kind of stuff. Amazing, eh? If only we were more educated. Now, capitalism, the theory of capitalism, because there's always theory and reality. The theory of capitalism says it seeks to protect the right of the individual to choose, to choose whatever you want to do, by way of a free and fair market, which restricts government to being a police, a referee, and a soldier, without interfering with your personal and economic freedom, except in 3 ways. So In capitalism, the role of government is very different. They should be, by the way, should, because when you watch the news and listen to commentaries, you hear people throw this word around very freely, like very, very freely. And for example, if they say a bad businessman, somebody who is evil or wicked and doing something bad, they say, oh, there's a capitalist, an evil capitalist. But and then if you read a dictionary, you'll see such not very precise definitions of socialism, capitalism, communism. Not very precise. They say things like, for capitalism, it's where the means of production are privately owned. You say, what is that? The means of production are privately owned. And by the way, that's supposed to be very, very bad because it's privately owned. But what does that mean? What does privately owned mean? Well, there are two ways to own something. Either it is publicly owned, meaning it's in the control of the government, which is communism and socialism. The government owns you and owns the land and owns the machinery. Or the government can tax you and regulate you at will to whatever end it wants, which means in both cases, the government is free to be your slave master. That's publicly owned. So privately owned actually means you owning the means of production, you owning you, and you owning property, and you having the right to make choices for yourself, as long as you are not actually killing anybody or hurting anybody in the process. But somehow they've made that to sound bad, and they've succeeded. And every day you'll hear these words being thrown around, and almost you'll hear people saying, "Oh, well, that's capitalism." So, for example, if a bank fails, they say, "Okay, that's capitalism." They say, "Hold on a second. What does that mean? Why is that capitalism? Because the bank failed, or because you had people who invested in derivatives or invested in collateralized debt obligations." Or subprime mortgages. Why is that capitalism? How does a person making a financial decision becomes capitalism? But somehow they got us into that, and we just take it. So let me say that to you again. According to the real theory of capitalism, it seeks to protect the right of the individual to choose within a free and fair market by restricting government to being a police. What does a police do? A police is supposed to make sure you and I don't kill each other, or you don't get to steal from me, I don't get to steal from you. And if we try to do it, they arrest us and we go to court and get punished. The government is supposed to be a referee. So if you and I have a dispute, between our contracts, then it has a court system. We go there and we settle the dispute amicably, as opposed to pulling out a gun and having a duel or boxing it out or something, right? So a government, police, referee, and a soldier, because sometimes you have foreign powers trying to invade your country or violate your borders. Then you have the soldier, the army, to defend that. Other than that, in a capitalist society, you and I freely trade with each other. It's called voluntary exchange, which is, by the way, the original way we developed as a civilization. Let me explain that to you a little bit so you can really get it. How do you develop as a civilization? Here's how you develop as a civilization. We decided that it's wrong for me to kill you and take what belongs to you, or for you to wait until I'm not looking and steal what belongs to me, or for you to build a raiding party and come over to my village and raid my village and take away my stuff and my women and children and enslave them. That was very uncivilized. And so it became more civilized and said, hey, why don't we just trade instead? So I will farm, you will fish, and Naika will make spears and guns to hunt with, and Winston is going to be a judge in the community where if anybody have any problems, he will help you to mediate. And Chase is going to give you counseling. So if you're having, emotional issues, you come to him and he will talk to you and help you through your emotional problems. And my wife will teach your children, and Miss Carlene will make fashion for you, clothing. And that's how we build civilization, a community, by trading. And so we hired a sheriff in town, a little mini government, and say, okay, keep the peace so none of us can kill each other. And so what we're going to do now, each of us will specialize in an area. Yeah, I'll specialize in what I just said. And so we'll now trade. So I'll come and give you some of my goods for some of your goods, and so on and so forth. And then somebody had a brilliant idea and said, why don't we, instead of trying to trade this way, which is kind of cumbersome, because for us to trade, I must always have what you want and you must always have what I want for us to then trade. So let's make money. Let's build a device where all of us will just accept that thing. Maybe some precious stone from the bottom of the river. We have some guys who dive for it. I'm going to use those stones, and we're just trading stones. So 1 stone for a chicken, 3 stone for a dress, 20 stone for a hut, and so on. So we trade. Free trading is normal. That's what we started with. A free market is normal. That's how we became civilized. What is uncivilized is if you now have a bunch of people who you call politicians and they start to interfere with you trading and start to interfere and try to make it harder for you to trade so that they can squeeze something out of you, as opposed to good government, which says trade, but nobody uses force or fraud to take what the other person has. So anybody in the group who try to force somebody to work for them as a slave, for example, that's wrong. Slap, go to jail. Anybody who tries to defraud somebody by saying, here's a nice cup that will hold your tea, when you start to drink after 2 weeks, it starts to leak. Fraud. Lock him up. Because he misrepresented the durability, the sturdiness of the cup. You follow me? So free trade is good, guys. Free market is good. It's civil. Trading voluntary, me trading value with you and you trading value with me, and we trade value for value, that is good. But somehow, some people want you to believe that is bad. And what they want you to do is to give up your right to freely trade with others and say, let us let the government decide what is best for us. What ration of soup should I get today? What allotment of clothing should I get today? What job has the good God government assigned me to do today? And so they want to get us to the place where we own nothing and we're happy. So we stop trading freely. We start to now just do as the gods tell us. The God called government. Whatever they tell us to do, that's what we do. And who is the God? Well, the God as the Holy Spirit, called the PSOJ oligarchy, or the global elite bankers and businessmen in the background, who they whisper their wishes to the intermediary God, and then they come and force those wishes on the rest of us. Okay? So I have further challenged your thoughts a little bit, and now I want to move into the final piece of my presentation here. So I want to now share with you where capitalism fails. Okay, so you understand. And if you listen carefully, you'll realize that, well, I won't say that. I'll let you realize it for yourself. So where capitalism fails is when government begins to compete with charities and businesses by stepping out of its lane and into their roles. The more government does this, the more it steps into the role of charities, the more it steps into the role of businesses. So it starts now to interfere with the market by even trying to offer some of the things that the market should offer. And where it starts to say it's going to take over the roles of charities and doing the work that charities were supposed to do, the more it does this, the more it creates incentives for corruption, which leads to this. Politicians promising what they should not promise in order to get votes. Individuals voting to get something for nothing from deceptive politicians, and special interest groups and business elites lobbying for favoritism and eventually buying politicians to create the laws and the regulations that will serve their interests. Now, that is where capitalism fails. But then, no, it's not capitalism that failed, is it? What failed is government not sticking to its role, interfering with your role and my role. It's your role and my role to do charities and business. It's government's role to make sure that it's a proper police, an effective referee, and provides a good army so that we can build a beautiful society together, trading value for value with each other and making choices, some of them good and some of them bad, and living with the consequences and the rewards. But we have been duped into shifting into a way of thinking that causes some serious unintended consequences. The end result is an artificial economic imbalance created by political corruption, which leads to artificial inequalities, a decline in morality, a gradual breakdown of society, and the rise of the worst among us being at the top. This is then followed by a collapse into some form of dictatorship or totalitarian state. In other words, slavery in another form. And that's the phase we're now about to slip into. So after all the corruption I just talked about, because of the breakdown of so-called capitalism, which it isn't, it's simply government being mismatched with its role. And as that happens, it creates the condition for the worst among us to rise to the top, which then leads to the moral decay and breakdown that actually causes us to move towards a dictatorship and a system of totalitarianism, which is another form of slavery. Why? The dictatorship usually comes, first of all, as an angel of light with nice sounding promises to fix all the problems in the world. But guess what? It quickly becomes a nightmare, and history is there to prove it. Just think of in China, Mao. Millions died because of his dictatorship. Russia's Stalin. Millions died. Germany's Hitler. Millions died. And we're about to enter another phase of the same. But all is not lost. The solution to this problem is actually staring us in the face. And sometimes it's very hard for us to see it. Sometimes we are so taken up with the problem that we can't see the solution. And tonight, I want to make very clear the solution for you. This solution is not going to fix the global problem overnight, but it will fix our problem locally to a great degree and allow us to possibly influence the international flow of things. And as small as it's in Jamaica, you should know that we're little but we're Talaba. Our choices can influence great things in the world. And this era is no different from others where we have influenced the world. It will just be the first time that we do it in this particular arena. So the solution to all I've just spoken about is the UIC's pragmatism, which takes the best of all of these systems while putting in the safeguards to prevent all that is wrong with those systems. And we achieve them as follows. I'm going to share with you quickly a few of the key things that the UIC has put together that will fix a lot of the problems we just talked about, beginning here at home, and then hopefully, and very likely, influencing the world. Number one is to implement a 100% publicly funded campaign financing system where the government, by design, funds every candidate individually for any campaign we're having in Jamaica, any election. We do so equally, and we therefore make each of those candidates independent enough to properly represent their constituents. So remember that, 100% publicly funded. It's much cheaper, it's far more transparent, and it severs the ties of the politician from big business, the PSOJ, and even their political party. So now their party has no control over them in terms of their ability to speak freely, participate fully, and represent properly the citizens of their constituents. You might have heard me present this before, so I won't get into the details again. But having a 100% publicly funded campaign system completely severs the control that the PSOJ oligarchy would have over the government of Jamaica. And it will free up every candidate to fully represent, without fear or favor, the constituents that they were elected to represent. This is critical. It may sound simple, but it's a powerful change to any so-called democracy. It will ensure that you now have full and true representation in your parliament, in your Congress, or whatever you call it. This is powerful. Number two, the UIC is going to have what is called land reparation and property tax abolition. This means we're going to make every indigenous Jamaican a true property owner. So those slaves, former slaves or released slaves in 1838, who were denied their right to be compensated for years of enslavement, their parents and grandparents and great-grandparents, and were denied the land that was stolen from them. The descendants of those men and women will now, for the first time in the history of mankind, be given what was rightfully theirs, the land of Jamaica. So every individual Jamaican becomes a true, free and clear property owner with title, and they should not and will not have to pay a cent for that land. In fact, they would have been owed money for the loss of value from the land and labor of their foreparents. And then they will also never again have to pay any property tax on those lands. So they're going to be true landowners. And that will go for all Jamaicans who are in possession of land. No tax on that land. There will, of course, be restrictions. You can't sell that land to foreigners and so on. But you can sell it to other Jamaicans, and you can live in it for as long as you wish, and it's your land. There will be a mix of solutions because it won't be a one-size-fits-all because there are different circumstances. So some persons, what they need is a house. So we'll give them a house And of course, the house itself won't be free, but the land portion, the credit that they needed for the land portion would have been applied, which puts them in a great position. And the homes that we provide will be high quality homes, but at below market prices because of the model we're going to follow, which is the Singaporean model, which allows 93% of their population to be property owners, even though they're so small, but have a population twice our size. So if they could do it, we can do it too, because we are 15 times better off than them in terms of land mass. And we are, 60 years older than the time when they started their initiative. So we can learn from all of their successes and mistakes. So we certainly can do it and do it better. And so we will. The third thing we're going to do is to ensure that we have a proper separation of the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branches of government to put a check on corruption and ensure accountability. What does this mean? It means that you're going to have an executive branch with a president and with ministers of government who are not commingled with the legislative side of government, which is the House of Representatives and the Senate. And so a clear distinction and a much better system of appointing judges and an elected Senate will ensure that the three branches are fully empowered, not just by surface words, but by substantive design to ensure that all three legs, all three branches can now fully hold the other accountable. So let me give you a practical example. So when it comes on to the design, building, and maintenance of road, the legislature would have approved a budget, but those same legislators who approved the budget wouldn't then find themselves as ministers of government or in any way tied to the executive branch by way of party affiliation and fear of losing their status in the party or losing their chance of being a minister of government and therefore not holding the government accountable. Instead, the two will be separate. So the legislative branch is now incentivized and motivated even to go after the executive to make sure that the budget was properly designed and the expenditures was properly undertaken and the value that we got was value for money in terms of the outcome. And because the judiciary is similarly very well separated because of the manner in which we're going to appoint the judiciary, they will be the guardians of our constitutional right and have no fear of any other branch of government because of how they're tenured and how they're structured and how they're protected from repercussions. So that's how we're going to really make sure you have a strong government that you can depend on, rely on, and be fully trusting of because of its design. The fourth thing we're going to do, which is critical to having the kind of Jamaica that you want, is we're going to transform every inch of Jamaica, including the ghettos, including the garrisons, including the squatter communities, into a safe, clean, and orderly society so that every community looks, smells, and feels like a eco-friendly tourist resort. This is critical. If you want to bring out the best in people, you have to give them an environment that inspires them to be the best. To that end, we're also going to provide a youth employment solution program that ensures every high school graduate is immediately employed after leaving school if they're not otherwise gainfully employed in, say, post-secondary studies or entrepreneurship or something of the sort. So once they're not fully and unequivocally engaged positively They will not be allowed to become disengaged. They will be immediately enrolled in a youth employment solution program, carefully designed to help them build the kind of work ethics that will make them highly productive in the future years and make them strong, dependable men and women of intellect, stamina, and substance. The sixth thing we're going to do is to provide a workfare program that ensures all unemployed adults are immediately enrolled in a program to find suitable employment while they're on government assistance. This is critical. We're not offering our people any freeness. We're always offering them an opportunity to earn their keeps. So you lose your job, you're immediately enrolled in a program where first, if necessary, you're being retrained or reoriented because your industrial may have collapsed or whatever it is. But we want to make sure we level set you, find out where are you in the spectrum of things, and immediately get you employed in suitable employment, and you having the freedom at any time to leave that program for any other employment of your choice, provided that employment is in something positive and not illegal, of course, right? And so our workfare instead of welfare program ensures that we keep the minds of our people where it should be, value added. Yeah, must be a system of meritocracy. So the more you produce, the more you engage in positive activities, the more merit there is, the more benefits there is to you by virtue of your own industry and skills. And we'll help you to sharpen those skills or to adjust when market conditions change and you find yourself unemployed, no fault of your own. And even if it's a fault of your own, we're still going to provide you with the assistance to get back on your feet rather than to get comfortable on government support. The seventh thing we're going to do that's going to make government work for us is we're going to aggressively apply a top-down process that monitors, investigates, and severely punishes any and all public and private sector officials who engage in any form of government corruption. So we're going to make anybody an example. See, like the other day, the Prime Minister was accused of some, nefarious activities there, and the investigation report says clearly he did so and so. You're not going to have anybody saying, it's too late, you can't go to trial. No, there will be no statute of limitations and anything like that. Once you're found involved in any form of corruption, you're going to pay, and you're going to pay dearly. We're so serious about this that when the UIC is elected, we're actually going to commission an investigation of politicians over the last 60 years, going back in time where possible and forensically investigating to see all the politicians that have gained from corruption at the expense of the Jamaican people. And dead or alive, we're going to make sure they pay. If they're dead, we're going to confiscate their estates and bequeath that to the Jamaican people. If they're alive, they're going to pay the price, not just jail time, but with the loss of their assets as well. So we're very, very serious. So we want to set a standard that when a person in Jamaica thinks about corruption, they quickly will consider the cost if they should be caught. And they must also know that it's very likely that they will be caught, because we'll spare no bones to investigate every single high-level official in government or in the private sector, every one of them, every company. We want to make sure that you were not involved in any way in stealing people. And so that's a commitment of the UIC. And this is a commitment you cannot hear from the PNP or JLP, because they know if they do that, they'll be, implicating themselves, right? They're going to be, found to be in violation of that law. So they're going to tell you a lot about, they're going to do anti-corruption, but it's all a game. So they just create new bodies, and then they make convoluted rules and laws so that if they get caught, they are exonerated and so on. We're going to stop that. There'll be no loopholes, no escape. So you better be clean, because if you're not clean, we're going to make you pay the price, and pay the ultimate price. On top of that, we're going to address something very, very significant that you might have overlooked. You might not be aware of it. Yeah. So we're going to address something very important, and that has to do with your money. The UIC is going to replace the fiat or fake money system with a real money system, a truly free market banking system to preserve the purchasing power of every citizen equally. Right now, as you work hard and try to save and try to invest if you have any disposable income, and even while you are not even saving, just trying to live from month to month, you find that your money is always losing value. So you get a raise today, 3%, whatever, 4%, 2%, 1%. By the end of the year, the value of your money has dropped 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%. So you can't keep up, even just by staying one place, by having the salary for a full year, you can't keep up. By year 2, your money is worth less. So we're going to eliminate that. That is the outcome of what is called a fiat or fake currency, or fake money, right? So we're going to give Jamaica a real money system that is 100% backed by your productivity. So it's not going to slip unless our productivity slipped. So the money will always adjust to the value of our productivity, as opposed to being stolen by artificial inflation of government. Whenever your government borrow money, right? When they borrow money and bring to Jamaica and spend it, they dilute the value of existing Jamaican dollars. Eh? So they go and they borrow, $1 billion, and you say, yay, clap, this is wonderful. No, they've just diluted your money. So that new money comes in, and then it also takes value out of your country, because now we have to pay interest to the outside power. Yes, they might give you a moratorium for 10 years. Say, oh, you don't have to pay anything for 10 years. Really? Well, at the end of the 10 years, all of the accumulated interest you're going to have to pay if it wasn't paid. And then you also have to start paying back the principal. And that's when they kick in the austerity and all the painful measures and tell you to bang your belly again, and you suffer again. We've done it for 80 years. If you're young, you don't know. So that's why the GLP is fooling up young people right now, because they don't know. They don't understand any of this. So they don't know that everything that you're telling them now was told 50 years ago, right? And the game has been played 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago. You don't know, because you're just 25 now, and you're just fitting into the trick, and you'll feel it. You'll eventually feel it. Ask your parents who are now 50, or your grandparents who are now 60, if they even realize what was done to them. But they can all tell you that the value of their money has been seriously wiped out, and yours will too, right? We keep following this system. The value of your money, when you retire, you're going to be poor, you're going to be miserable, you're going to be suffering, because they're wiping out the value of your hard work. Now, in a real money system, if you worked at age 25 and saved $100,000 in 2023, and you went back and you buried that $100,000 in the ground, and you went back for it 20 years later, so now you're 43 years old, and you dug up that $100,000, it will still be able to buy just about the same things 20 years later that it could have bought in 2023. Now that's with real money. With fiat money or fake money, which is currency, You bury that $100,000 in the ground in 2023, and you go and dig it up back 20 years later. What that $100,000 could have bought in 2023, you would need $1 million to buy the same thing in 2043. Yeah. So you're now very poor, even though you were better. You felt good when you had that $100,000. So that's what's happening to you. Now, the PNP and JLP would never explain this to you because their job is to keep you colonized, to keep you ignorant, to keep you unaware. By the time you figure it out, they would have stolen another 20 years of your wealth, of our wealth, of your parents' wealth, your grandparents' wealth, and your wealth. And then you will wake up to the reality 20 years down the road, but guess what? It's too late. Andrew's already retired, sitting with his foot up at his wonderful mansion, enjoying a prime minister's salary in his retirement, plus all the other multiple billions of dollars in assets that he has around the world. If he has around the world, I don't know where he has it, but wherever it is, in his beautiful mansion and in whatever many businesses they were able to set up, or any external accounts in any other country, whatever, I don't know. But generally speaking, they tend to have a much better life than you and me after they leave office. Because, whatever reason, you have a person goes into politics with nothing, and then after a few years, they have everything. They're struggling before. And the vast majority of Jamaicans are like that. They're struggling. They can't buy a house, properly. They can't fix up properly. They can't, but you see, politicians go in just as tough luck as the rest of us, and very, very quickly, things are going for them once their party win. That's why they work so hard. They'll do anything to get their party to win. They'll kill even, and they've done that. They've given guns and ammunitions to our boys to kill each other. Right now, if you go down to into Kingston, an area like Beeston Street or Blake Road or Anova Street, or one of those Luke lanes, they're killing each other down there for politics. Politicians are using them to kill each other. As a new guy comes in from the other party and then buy out some people and win, and then the money now share up properly and all things, and then they start to kill each other. So I'm not talking about something fake. This is real. Jamaica has been suffering greatly because of these two gangs that we have in power, ruling our country. Another thing the UIC is going to do to make sure we have a very strong and effective system of governance, we're going to make Jamaica the first true republic ever. So we're going to be the first true republic in the history of mankind. There have been other countries who call themselves republic, like China says they're a republic. China is not a republic. America says they're a republic. Well, they tried to be a republic, but they have lost it. They didn't quite, go all the way. Barbados said they're a republic, but they're not a republic. They just simply change the name of their governor general to president. They have the same system as before, but they call it republic. Trinidad says they're a republic. They're not a republic. Guyana says they're not a republic. The only way to be a republic is if you do exactly what the UIC will do. We're going to have the world's first true republic by fully and unequivocally protecting the individual sovereignty of every citizen by law, entrenched, unquestionable. So we're going to protect the right of every citizen to do with their life, their liberty, and their property as they see fit, provided they never use force or fraud to violate the equal rights of others. So don't let anybody tell you about, they're going to have a free-for-all system. It's not free-for-all. We're going to have a system where you are free, where you are liberated, where you are empowered, but only if you do not use your freedom to infringe on the life, liberty, or property rights of others by way of force or fraud. So this system that we're going to put in place will prevent government overreach, such as you have seen during the so-called pandemic, where government was able to do all kind of evils in an attempt to get you into their colonial or foreign master's plan. Will never happen under a true republic, cannot happen under a true republic. So we're going to secure your bodily autonomy. We're going to secure your right to freedom of speech, freedom of movement, and freedom of association at all times, under every single solitary condition. So whether the rain fall too hard, or a virus get too wild, or we're at war with another country, the government will never have the right to prevent you from speaking out, to censor you, to stop you from sharing your views on the subject matter. They'll never be able to stop you from traveling in your country freely as a citizen of this country. They can't tell you to stay home. They can tell you that it's advisable to stay home. They can share with you important information that could save your life. But at the end of the day, you will have the last say whether you want to protect your life according to the recommendation of your government. What you won't be able to do is to force somebody else to do what you want to do. What you won't be able to do is to defraud somebody else into doing what you want them to do. But you can do what you want with your life, with your liberty, with your property, as long as doing so doesn't infringe on the life, liberty, or property of somebody else. The 10th thing that we're going to do for you as a government is we're going to replace the colonial police force with a properly trained, well-paid, and well-equipped police service that is community-based, that is community-focused, that has a preventative style and approach, which focuses on stopping crime from happening rather than simply responding to crimes. Yes, you're going to have to respond to some, but there are things we can do and should do through effective community policing to create an environment where the crime is prevented in the first place. We're going to have a new way of policing that we call a police service, where officers are not only going to serve and protect you, but they're going to be required and made to fully respect you as a citizen and to respect all citizens equally, from the president to the pauper. They're going to be trained, compensated, and made to be professionals. And as such, they will be highly respected by every member of society, from the boy and girl to the young man and young women, to the adult men and women, to the senior citizens. They will be regarded with the highest degree of respect because of the way we teach them, the way we train them, the way we compensate them, and how difficult it is for you to become a police officer. You must be somebody of the right mental fortitude, the right stamina, the right ethical qualities, the right character to serve in the police service. And you're going to see yourself as a social worker, a community worker, somebody who is embedded in and is a part of the community, not just an intruder who comes in when there is some problem. They're going to be there to help prevent problems. You can counsel people, you can guide people, you can motivate and encourage young people. a very different form of policing, one that is foreign to Jamaica, but is going to become the new way, the Jamaica way, when the UIC is elected. We're also going to change the way the Defense Force operates. It's a very underutilized and poorly utilized and misutilized element of our society. So we're going to replace the Defense Force with a properly trained, well-paid, and very equipped defense service used exclusively, and notice that word exclusively, used exclusively to defend our borders, to prevent illegal persons, illegal substances, and illegal items, such as guns and ammunition, from entering or leaving our shores and ports. So our defense service is now going to be highly engaged and very active in the way that they should be. We're not going to have our soldiers or our army being deployed against civilians in this country anymore. They're going to be deployed to do exactly what they're supposed to do: protect our borders, prevent anything that shouldn't come in from coming, and anything that shouldn't go out from going out. And they're going to do that with the strictest degree of rigidity and effective enforcement, extreme intelligence, and with the kind of professionalism that you would expect from the most elite of soldiers a country could ever have. Well-trained, very focused, and properly utilized. That will be our defense service. And the last thing I want to share with you today or tonight is the fact that in order for us to achieve all of these things, we have to change the mindset and the mentality of our people. And we're going to have to do that on many fronts, a number of fronts. But one of the most important avenues through which we have to do this is we're going to have to change the colonial or European education system that we have into an Afrocentric one that develops the whole person into a highly informed, highly competent, highly intelligent human being who understands him or herself, who understands how to build solid human relationships, understand people, and finally, understand money. We're going to make it a strong prerequisite that our students leave high school with a great command of self, a great command of how to be an effective man or woman, an effective husband or wife, an effective human being with the right skills to reason, analyze, communicate, build family relationships, friend relationships, business relationships, international relationships in a way that works, that brings out the best in us. These are some of the key ways by which we're going to build a new and better Jamaica, a very healthy Jamaica. Now, there are other things I haven't mentioned, such as our commitment to water, food, and energy security. You've heard me talk about those before. That's all a part of our economic plan and engine. Jamaica will revolve primarily around those three core areas, together with a strong community tourism product. But I've spoken about that at length in other videos. But I want you to understand these are key elements that will move us away from the controlling mechanism where the world is going. So we're going to be standing up against tyranny, totalitarianism, dictatorships, slavery in all its form. So you're once again going to have, or for the first time even, a government that truly stands for something and is not just here to win elections and extract your wealth. The UIC is indeed our last hope of ever extricating ourselves from the claws of the colonial masters and their two colonial parties that are funded, owned, and controlled by the PSOJ oligarchy. We are indeed the last hope before we slip into a place of no return. But my friends, hope is not a strategy. Hope is a good thing. It's a starting point. But hope is not a strategy. If we want to change, or if you, for example, want to change your life, you cannot stop at hoping. You must take real, calculating action if you're going to change your life. Maybe you are in a bad relationship. You thought it was going to work out, but it's not working out. You can't just hope it gets better. You have to take steps to fix that relationship, or the unfortunate step of leaving that relationship. Maybe you're in a dead-end job. You took a job in a restaurant initially because you couldn't find anything better. That happened to me when I went to Canada in my young years. I couldn't find a job if my life depended on it, not in my field. So I took a job, a dead-end job, if you will, at a restaurant, mopping floors and waiting tables. But I didn't treat it like a dead-end job. I applied myself, I provided good service, and I was spotted by the boss, who then decided to offer me other upward mobility opportunities. And in no time, I moved from being at the very bottom to being an accounting clerk in the company, even though I had no formal training yet as an accountant. I was trained as an engineer, but I started studying accounting on the side. So I had to take steps. You have to take steps to change your life. Maybe you're a parent, you're struggling with your child, and the methods that you have been using, they're not working. The child is getting worse and worse, out of hand. You have to take steps to change that. Maybe you need to get some help from somebody who can teach you about how to be a better parent. Maybe you have to watch some videos on YouTube that talks about effective parenting and see if you can change your style so you can get different results. Maybe you're having money problems. You always have to be borrowing to survive. You never have enough. You work hard, you get your paycheck, but then by the month income, you're borrowing money to even go back to work. Maybe you have to revisit your life choices, change some of your habits. Maybe you're living too expensively in some areas of your life than you should. Maybe you need to improve your skills and get a different job or an increase in your income. Maybe you have to start a side hustle that is honest and decent, but will allow you to augment your income as opposed to borrowing, because the interest rates and all that you're paying is pushing you further and further behind. Whatever it is, you cannot just hope for change. You have to hope, wish, pray, and then design a plan and take real action. The same is true for us as a collective. If we want real change, we cannot just hope, wish, or pray for that change. We have to get up, get busy, and make it happen by joining, volunteering, and donating to the UIC now. There's no other way. We can't expect that at the next election, the UIC is going to be elected just because we wish. We can't expect that the people of Jamaica will just make a decision and vote UIC if we don't empower the UIC to go out there into the nook and crannies and meet the people where they are. Some of us have to give more because we can give more. There's some of us who can give the 25 US dollars a month. Some who can give 10. Some who can give 50. Some who can give 500. There are even some of you watching now who know you can give $10,000 US tomorrow or $5,000. But you're sitting back and you're waiting and hoping and wishing that it works. That's not how life goes. If we want the change, we are going to have to do the things to make the change happen. God did not give us a brain, 2 hands, and 2 feet to sit on them. Our Creator gave us the ability to plan, to organize, and to do whatever it takes to move the mountains in our way and to cross the rivers in our lives in order to achieve the goals we have set for ourselves. And yes, we must each set and achieve personal goals, family goals, and even national goals. And our national goal, yours and mine, the UIC, our goal is to become the first true republic this world has ever seen. Our goal is to become the first non-partisan constitutional republic on the planet. Our goal is to become the first nation on earth to fully recognize and respect the sovereignty of every individual. Yes, our goal is to accept, respect, and protect the right of every man and woman to their life, their liberty, and their property. Our goal, my friends, my fellow Jamaicans, our goal is to have a government that fully protects these rights under a constitution that fully protects us from government. Those are our goals, and they're all one and the same. None of them can exist without the other. This is how we're going to have a safe, a clean, and an orderly Jamaica where everyone, and I mean everyone, every one of us can live, earn, and retire with dignity in our own country. Do you want that Jamaica? If you want that Jamaica, you have to help us reach 1,000 persons to donate in the diaspora, giving at least $25 a month, US. If you want that goal, you have to help us to reach 1,000 Jamaicans, giving $1,000 a month, Jamaican dollars, just $250 a week. This is how we beat the PSOJ oligarchy. This is how we take back our land. This is how we take back our country. By us funding, owning, and controlling our own party. This is how we do it. There is no other way. Any other way leads back to where we're coming from. Parties owned by special interest groups, working on behalf of special interests while pretending to care about you and me and our family. If we want the Jamaica that I just described, it will only happen if we own the party, me and you, not the PSOJ oligarchy, not the colonial masters, me and you. We, the people, have to own the party. There's no other way. Absolutely no other way but to fund, own, and control the UIC. So help me. Help me to get 1,000 persons in the diaspora to give $25 US a month. Help me to get 1,000 Jamaicans here at home to give $1,000 a month. And I can assure you that number, when you help me reach 1,000 abroad and 1,000 a yard, we're going to reach 1 million shortly after that. So all of us have to do our part. I'm doing my part. So far, by my effort, the effort of Naika Williams, our treasurer, the efforts of Carlene Ramirez Acosta, our general secretary, the efforts of Winston Wright, our chairman, the efforts of Chase Neal, our VP now for Cornwall, the efforts of Jasmine Powell, our VP for Surrey, and the efforts of Dr. Coretta Brown Johnson, and all the others, and none more important than my dear wife, Charlotte Masada Patterson, and even God.
Good night, everyone. So it seems as if Mr. Patterson is having some internet issues at the moment because he just dropped off and it was freezing a bit before this. But what he was doing, though, is really thanking the persons of the UIC who have really stepped up to ensuring that, we create the Jamaica that we all dream of. So he's back. He's back. He'll take over from here. No.
So, once again, they interrupted my life and my life. At what point was I cut off?
You were thanking the members who have stepped up to, help with the UIC and so forth.
Wonderful. Well, I think the powers that be have said my time is up by that untimely interruption. But let me just say this before I go. I want to thank all of you for being here with us tonight. I want to thank you for your various contributions to the UIC in various forms, whether you're just sharing it with your family and friends, whether you are just being here tonight to lend your support, or you're a donor. Whatever you're doing to help the movement, I thank you. I appreciate you. The entire UIC family that's working hard every day appreciates you. And now the time has come for us to get other people to do what you're doing, what we're doing, join together to make this a reality. And remember, one Jamaica,
Stronger together.
stronger together. Have a good night, everyone. Take care. And don't forget to send your donation soon to help us hit the road. Appreciate it. Take care. Bye-bye.